I'm Tim Troy, the FRGP statewide coordinator, and this is the application workshop for the 2024 Proposal Solicitation Notice Concept Proposal. Here's today's agenda, and we'll go through the material before I open it up to any general questions. However, if there's any clarifying questions about what I'm talking about, please either unmute yourself or pop something into the comments or the chat, and I'll try and see if we can answer it then. Otherwise, you can wait till the end. So before I get into the program information, I want to do a quick introductions of our staff, and just let you know that you can find contacts for our staff by Googling FRGP contacts, and the first result you'll get is going to take you to FRGP contacts. FRGP has staff throughout the state in all the regions that we do projects, and I encourage you to reach out to myself or any of our regional staff if you're thinking about a project, or even if you have a project, just to get their thoughts and input on everything. So what is FRGP? FRGP is a restoration grant program that funds projects that restore and protect salmon and steelhead habitat. And we do this by funding different types of projects. We fund implementation, design, planning, effectiveness monitoring, organizational support, capacity building, and education projects. Eligible applicants for these funds include California Native American tribes, nonprofit organizations, and public agencies. We have about $18 million in available funds for those projects. There is no project maximum or minimum, but typically an average cost of a project is anywhere from $100,000 to several $1 million. To fund a project, projects have to be within eligible watersheds. The eligible watersheds extend from Mexico all the way to Oregon and inland through portions of the Central Coast. A detailed list of which watersheds are eligible are located in the focus table, which is in the FRGP guidelines as part of the PSN. The focus table was developed in junction with CDFW and NOAA scientists to best target restoration activities for salmon and steelhead recovery. There's detailed watershed information as well as which project types are eligible within that watershed. If you have any trouble understanding that focus table or identifying where your project may be in these watersheds, again, please reach out to our staff and they're happy to help. One of the many great things that is FRGP is that FRGP is unique in that we're the only grant program in California that provides eligible projects with environmental permit coverage. So for projects that are eligible and are awarded through FRGP, FRGP provides CEQA, 401 water quality cert, 404 coverage through general permits, and a coastal development permit for folks in the coastal zone. This is a great service for organizations who are new to restoration and not familiar with all the permitting pathways, as well as existing restoration practitioners. The schedule for our solicitation is shown here. We released the PSN on January 9th of this year. Concept proposals will be open through March 4th, right up until the start of the full application. And I'll be talking more at the end about the concept proposal phase and the application and kind of what we expect out of that phase. But more for the full schedule, the full application is open through March 5th through April 18th. That's when you're submitting your full application. After that, we'll be doing technical reviews through April through June, the end of June. After that period, we get into permitting those projects. Like I just mentioned, all the permits for coverage, we start that in June before even projects are awarded. And then we award projects in November, December of this year. So the FRGP guidelines, this is really kind of the meat of and instructions on how to apply and what we need in the application for the full application. It's recommended that you read these guidelines and get familiar with them if you haven't read them before. And even if you have read them before, still pay close attention to them as it pertains to your project. I was going to go over high-level details of what these each parts are. Part 1 is just general introduction to FRGP. Part 2 are the project types, and it outlines the proposal submission requirements, eligibility, and some other proposal requirements. So I'd review Part 2 for sure. Part 3 overviews our funding criteria, so things that we're going to need in the application. And then Part 4 is really the meat of what we're looking for in our application, and it's specific for your project type. It's a long or large part of the guidelines, but it's only particular to, there's 18 project types, and we only need year 1 project type, most likely. And read those requirements, because that's really the meat of where you're getting scored at, is if you're submitting information that we require in that Part 4. Part 5 is the definitions and descriptions. And so in Part 4, where we tell you something's required, there's typically a definition of what that thing is. And so there's more information in the definitions and descriptions about what we're looking for when we say maps or photos or conceptual plans. And then there's several appendices. Appendix B is one you really want to pay attention to, and that's where all the score sheets are. We're very transparent about how we score projects in FRGP. It's through those score sheets, and so we recommend looking at those score sheets and evaluating how you're writing your proposal to make sure that you're answering all the questions that we'll be evaluating in our score sheets and review process. Next, we have the updates from 2023, which is last year's PSN. This year, there weren't a whole lot of updates, but we modified the pre-application phase from last year to now be called the concept proposal phase, or the concept phase, and we'll get into that in just a moment. We added a requirement for applicants to explain the climate change considerations that they took into account when developing their project. And then we lowered the point deductions for PD feasibility studies. Next, I quickly wanted to touch on updates for 2025. We have some pretty exciting kind of plans to overhaul FRGP a little bit, or quite a bit, hopefully, just to make it easier in all fashions and make it more suit today's restoration needs. And so be on the lookout for a survey from FRGP as well as public meetings. We plan to probably use the PRC meeting. If you haven't heard about the PRC, it's the Peer Review Committee, which is an oversight committee for FRGP that we have. Traditionally, we have 3 meetings a year, but we plan to use them to help us with public meetings to kind of vet these ideas that we're hoping to change. But we're hoping to make the application simpler and the review process simpler, and really target on making sure that we're funding and receiving the best restoration projects that we can. If you want to stay informed about some of those meetings, please go to this wildlife.ca.gov grants sign up page. And these slides will be available on our website if you didn't copy that link. It's also available on FRGP's website if you go to it. So all of the applications that we accept for the concept proposal and for our full proposal are through web grants. So if you don't have an account on web grants, you'll want to make sure you make one. If you don't have an account, you'll want to click right underneath the CDFW shield here, where it says register here. If you do have one, it's typically the first letter of your name, your last name, and the letter or number 1. If you forgot your user ID or you need to reset your password, you can click those links and it'll take you through the process of how to do that. Once you have your login information or in web grants, the way you get to the concept proposal funding opportunity is this top page or this top screen here is what your main menu will look like when you sign in. There's going to be 1 or 2 more components right underneath my applications, but I clipped that off to make this size fit. But you want to click funding opportunities, and that'll take you to a list of all of WRGB's current funding opportunities. And so feel free to explore those, but for FRGP's concept proposal, it'll be FRGP's concept proposal. So click that, and there'll be 2 buttons that say start an application, and then you can start a new application. Now I'm going to go into the concept proposal phase itself. The concept proposal phase is meant for us as an engagement tool. It's meant for us to help better understand barriers to applicants and the needs of the applicants and address them prior to the full application. And it's also intended for us to help improve proposals for projects and discuss the project scopes with the applicants. This concept proposal is not a funding decision, and it's not required. Last year, the pre-application phase, as we called it, was a required step for the full application. But we decided to make it not required for this year. But we do encourage that new applicants or newer applicants to FRGP, if you haven't applied to FRGP in the last year or 2, really strongly consider filling out a concept proposal. If you have a PD, we really encourage you to apply to this concept proposal. I think the input from CDFW and NOAA and our engineers and scientists will really improve your project and improve the chances that it scores well. So it's advantageous for you. The proposal itself is meant to be short and not meant to take a ton of time, but it's meant for us to understand the project quickly so that when we have a consultation after you apply, we know what we're talking about It's about 2 to 3 pages with budgets and photos and existing plans. And we fully understand that the concept proposal may change along the way from the full proposal. And now I was going to go over the questions themselves that are in the concept proposal. So the first question we ask is about background. This is just for us to gather what's going on at the site, why are the current conditions the way they are, and what's the history of the site. The next question is project status, which is just for you to explain what work has already been done, whether it's just we've just talked to the landowner or we've already done 100% design and we're ready for implementation. It's just for us to understand where you are in the project timeline. The next one, which is the largest response in this proposal, is explaining the project activities and why you think they'll be successful at restoring the project location and helping the focus species. The next question is this ecological process considerations. And so this question is targeted at asking the applicant to take us through the process of their project development. Kind of what considerations did you have when designing your project? Is your project able to be fully process-based? And if not, kind of what were the constraints to that site? And if you aren't able to do full process-based, what nature-based solutions did you consider in designing your project or coming up with your project? Next question is project outcomes. So we asked you to list the major deliverables and an estimate on the time. This can be a bulleted list of just tasks with dates. Hopefully there's enough description to understand what those bullets are, but it doesn't have to be overly descriptive. Like I said, we plan to have consultations with everyone who submits the concept proposal, and so more detail can be gathered at that time. The next question is project priority. This question is for us to understand why this project was chosen by the applicant, what watershed plans call it out, maybe what limiting factors is it identifying, and why is it a priority to fund. Next, we're curious, who are the project partners on the project? Do you have landowner support already? Have you spoken with local tribes in your area? Do you have other state or federal organizations? Is there other nonprofits or community members invested in the project? And this is a way for us to garner and understand how much support there is for the project. So that makes up the most of the questions per se. The next part of the application is just the map, which we forego you having to make a map and just ask that you provide us a Google pin drop. In the application, there's instructions on how to do a Google pin drop if you're not familiar, but essentially it'll just be copy and paste that pin drop into the application, and then when we review the application online, we just click it and it takes us right to the site location and gives us enough information to kind of understand what's going on. We ask quick permitting questions. We ask if you're in the coastal zone and you'd like to be included in the coastal development permit. We actually start some of those permitting pathways during the application phase and start those coordinations with agencies early on. The next step is, there's other than FRGP's permitting support, which is great, and we highly recommend you take advantage of that. There's also a lot of efficiencies, and different permitting strategies that you can take care of. And CDFW has a great group called Cutting the Green Tape, which helps you can help you strategize about different permitting pathways. And so that's just a yes/no question if you'd like for us to contact you, but you're also able to reach out to Cutting the Green Tape staff on your own. You can do that also by Googling. Then the last bit of the application is photos. We just ask for a few photos, and there's descriptions in the applications what we're looking for, and then any plans you may have already, and then a budget. Here and in the web grants and in the application or the guidelines, there's links to the budget. The budget is a typical Excel file, but a simple budget is okay. We don't expect you to, at this concept phase, to have a ironed out budget. So do the best you can, but it's okay if there's estimates or there may be guesses, and we understand that the budget may change between now and the full proposal. It's really for us just to understand what you think costs will be, and that's something that we can talk about during our concept proposal consultation as well. So the process for this concept proposal is, as applicants apply through March 4th, we'll take a look at that weekly, and then we'll review that at the beginning of the week, coordinate internally and with the applicant towards the end part of the week, with the hope of setting up a consultation meeting the following week. And this will kind of be done rolling throughout this whole concept proposal phase. I realize our concept proposal goes up to March 4th, and the full proposal starts March 5th. But rest assured, if you submit a concept proposal on March 4th, you'll still be afforded that consultation of the concept proposal through the full proposal that week. Kind of mentioned it earlier before, but this concept proposal is really an opportunity for the applicant to kind of share ideas or concerns or questions about their project, as well as the department to share concerns, ideas, or questions about the project. I mentioned it's not a funding decision, this process, and we're hoping that these consultations are kind of a collegial working together to try and find the best possible project to help a recovered salmon and steelhead. And thanks, Desiree, for plopping the Cutting the Green Tape link into the chat. If folks want to get a link there. Last is just contact information. The solicitation itself is on FRGP's website, which is listed here and can also be Googled. Like I mentioned, all our contacts are online here or can be Googled, and feel free to email us at frgp@wildlife.ca.gov. Again, I'm Tim Chory. I'm the statewide coordinator for the program, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well as any regional staff are. So that's all I have for you. Does anyone have any questions for me? Is that almost a question? All right, well, if folks don't have questions, I'll stay here. I have a great propensity for silence, so I'll sit here for a few more minutes And if folks want to stay on or reach out to me individually, or like I said, our regional contacts, please do. But we look forward to folks and applicants taking advantage of the concept proposal. And Steph, Tori, do you have a question? Oh, Tori just left. I think Steph, you're the last remaining. You're leaving right now. So it's just CDFW, folks. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to log off now.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Tim.